Welcome to Beyond Death, where we examine near-death experiences of people who say they died, visited the other side, and came back. Today's NDE is from a woman that says she experienced an NDE at a young age that left her having visions later in life. Let's get into it. My name is Constanza, and this is my NDE experience. It was Friday, October 31st, 2003. I was 9 years old. I was about to turn 10 years old on December 13th. That day I attended my school as usual. It is important to talk about an experience I had as a child where I saw spirits, which I called angels, and they saved me from what could have been a domestic accident, when a huge old heavy double bed mattress almost fell on me when I was 4 years old. This is the first memory I have of such an experience. My parents could not understand how that mattress did not fall on me and how I could lift it out of bed by myself. It was practically impossible for a 4-year-old. If it fell on me, I would probably end up getting hit since there was very little room and a piece of furniture behind me. I always felt out of place. At my school I was bored, and I liked to spend time on my breaks with a nun I frequented at the church of the school I attended. I remember spending hours and hours talking to her about life and how I saw the world. As a child, I used to write books and stories about stars and constellations. I also danced to pop songs and gave concerts for the school students in front of the school church. I never felt I belonged to a religion. I questioned everything since I was little and didn't like to follow the rules. But I always felt connected to the mystical and divine. Going back to day 31, that day at the end of the school day, I was walking outside my school. I greeted my sister. I remember her smile. She was going into her school day, and I was leaving the school. When I got to the door, I heard that the children were a bit rowdy. That day there was a solar storm, or something blocking the sun in the sky. It was like a black circle, which was just above the school exit door, casting a shadow. I stopped at that door. I stood there looking at the sky. It was dark, and I felt strange. Something in my body felt that something was going to happen. I had always been quite observant and awake. For a moment, everything became slow, as if I and all the people were not in the same place or time. People were walking fast, but I felt slow, as if time was freezing like in the movies. This was in a matter of seconds. I came back to the present. Everything started to move normally. 2 of my classmates wanted to go buy candy at the store across the street from my school. So I left my backpack on the bus that would take me home. I got out and watched my classmates cross the street. I was between the bus and another car behind it. I was small, and when I crossed the street, I was hit by a car. Next to the school is the school church. My body flew to the beginning of a gas station that was next to the church and the end of the church. My body fell there. My classmates called me the girl who flew. I don't remember the moment of impact. I don't know what happened at that moment, but I remember that I was saved. There was another presence there. Suddenly I felt as if I was trapped in a black space and my spirit falling into my body. I found myself asking God, please don't let me go, that it was not my time yet. I was aware of everything that had happened as I fell from that dark tunnel with a light at the end. A light that was cold and warm at the same time, that gave peace. I was thinking about my mom, and it all happened too fast. I guess not in real time. I felt my soul fall into my body, and I didn't open my eyes. I felt peace and despair, but I was conscious and kept repeating in my mind, this can't be true. This can't be true. I opened my eyes and felt like I came back to life. I didn't know where I had gone, and I was scared. There were a lot of people around me, children, teachers looking at me. Then they asked me my name and if I remembered what had happened. I said yes. But I couldn't talk much. I was confused, but I knew that day had changed my life forever. They wouldn't move me. I wanted to see my mother. First, I was seen by a doctor who was the father of a girl from school, and then an ambulance came. I had an inwardly exposed fracture, my whole left side of my body bleeding. At that moment, my fracture was the most important thing. It was not easy to heal. After almost a month in the hospital and several attempts to heal my bone, the doctors decided I needed pins in my bone. So they did a surgery later. The nun came to visit me. I don't remember what she said to me. I only remember that she smiled and gave me a medal of a virgin, which I still have today. That year I did not finish the school year. Later, the following year I returned to my school. I was being helped with psychologists and psychiatrists. I had post-traumatic stress disorder, and I was still trying to come to terms with everything that had happened to me. I was also being interviewed by judges about the whole situation. At the same time, I felt that a part of me was taken away. I began to suffer from vertigo. The doctors found that I had hearing loss in one ear and also a lesion in the hypothalamus. It was really hard to get my life back. It was clearly never the same. I had a lot of information for a 9-year-old kid, and my parents couldn't answer my questions. Psychiatrists and doctors started to medicate me incorrectly. For many years, I had no contact with religions anymore. I had hope in myself. I went through depression. I wanted to die. I felt misunderstood. At school, I did not feel accepted or understood. I suffered from bullying, among other things. I thought I was a very sensitive person for this world, and at that time there was no current information. When time passed and I grew up, I went back to therapy on my own. I knew I had questions that at the time had not been answered that I wanted to face. At first I couldn't talk about the accident without crying. But I felt there was a purpose and I didn't have to give up. I found a psychologist who helped me really understand my sensitivity, was really kind and encouraged me to look for the answers. I visited other doctors and I was suffering from a vestibular disorder, which caused me to become unbalanced many times and fall. And all that goes with that. To accept my accident, to understand the things that were not wrong with me, that were part of a disabling environment, and how I could manage myself in it, and in the world. In my last years of therapy and getting settled and healthier, I began to have visions, things that I dreamed were happening, like war or problems in the world. These things were happening, some in my environment, and some in the world. I was experiencing going out of my body. I had also started to learn tarot and other forms of divination. All of that had always appealed to me. Since child. In my family, these things like consulting with witches, tarot readers was a normal thing. My aunt used to do tarot cards and I always wanted to learn. I realized that my visions had always been there, but that by taking so much medication, they were kind of numb. Then I had a relapse. I had my awakening of consciousness or spiritual awakening at the same time, and I entered a journey of twin flames. When I had this relapse, I began to develop my mediumship. I spent several months trying to get my balance back because of my vestibular disorder. During those months, I had dreams where I was presented with my deceased grandparents, deceased teachers from my school where the accident occurred, and the nun from my school who had also passed away. I received messages. I knew things that had happened without having been present. Then I started talking to my grandmothers about it, about my origins, my family's origins, if there were others in the family who experienced these things. And yes, I found out that one of my grandmothers was a witch, that both of my grandmothers also had contact with spirits and rituals. They shared their information with me, and I continued to find the answers through enlightenment or dreams. Past lives were revealed to me, words in other languages that I did not know through writing. My grandparents gave me messages. One day I was very sick. I felt tired. The dizziness was back, and I felt like it was going to be my last day. Little by little I felt as if my brain was not oxygenating well. My mother was lying asleep next to me, taking care of me. And I had a revelation. White stairs appeared. I felt like I was giving up. I saw 3 people standing on that staircase, wearing hoods and dark robes. Everything was white, and there was a light behind the stairs. It was probably the closest thing to heaven. At that moment, one of them held out his hand to me and said, "It's not time yet, 333. Again, that happened in a matter of seconds. I came back to me. and I woke up my mom. Agitated, I told her what had happened to me. I told her that I understood what had happened to me the day of my accident. At that moment, I understood that I had experienced NDEs. When I recovered, I began to study more about it. I consulted my psychologist. I told her that I had discovered something called NDEs through an old book that was surprisingly in the library in my room, called I Saw the Light. I found it, and it caught my attention. My sister had left it there along with some of her other books before she moved out. I read it and cried. I really felt that this writer could understand my experience. I cared to know what my psychologist's opinion was to my whole story. She recommended I watch a series of NDEs when I told her my story. And she told me that there were things that we just couldn't explain. And I understood that what I had experienced was a near-death experience. I felt a lot of comfort from reading stories similar to mine, of warriors all over the world. I felt peace, continued healing, and finished my therapy and came back to myself. Now when I look in the mirror, I recognize who I see. I am currently working on my video for my next song about my dark night of the soul. I already released one about my spiritual awakening and the relationship with my NDEs. Many things are incredibly similar. I know the world is awakening, and I know there are New Age beliefs. But what I really know and can share is that my soul knows no religion. It knows no divisions. I just know that love is the word, and I want to be close to that. That in the end, it is us and that light. At the end of the road, I saw a light, and the closest thing to that light is the sun. Notes from Beyond Death. I have included a link to this near-death experience in the description for those that would like to research more. It includes a brief question and answer portion that Constanza took part in. Unfortunately, when I searched Amazon for a book called I Saw the Light, I came up with many books with those words in the title but no exact matches. Maybe someone else will have better luck. Until next time, stay blessed.